Another year has raced past us. 2016 was a momentous year. Weather events were unprecedented and record-setting, and not in a good way. Our election frenzy took a toll on everyone. Europe is destabilizing. There is serious temple activity in Jerusalem, the first since its destruction in 70 AD. The suburbs of Damascus were bombed by Israel a few weeks ago in a foreshadowing of Isaiah 17, and so much more. We'll talk about some of the highlights of the past year this hour. I'm going to review some of those from Understanding the Times Radio for the hour. Eric Barger is in studio to comment with me and, sort of bring things up to date. And thank you for joining me, Eric.
Pleasure, Jan. Glad to be here. This is going to be a good show.
Well, I've tried to pick some highlights from the last year's programming. And then, Eric, I'm hoping that you and I can add just a little up-to-date commentary. But I certainly tried to hit, as I was planning the year, almost a year ago, topics that were going to be breaking and relevant all the year through. And both you and I do have an interest in the forthcoming one world religion.
Yep. And, when you look at the events, we could just stop and talk about Damascus and Isaiah 17 for about 20 or 25 minutes without stop, know. So it's a lot going on, and we're just going to pick out some of the highlights. Certainly not everything that we covered through the year. There's no way we could do that in just one program as we have today. But this is important stuff, especially for those who are in tune already with prophecy and what's happening in the world around us and with the soon coming of the Lord.
I think we'll just head right into it. And I'd like to start with Amir Tsarfati. It goes back a few months now, commenting on just what I said a moment ago about that forthcoming one world religion. We're just going to play short clips and then come back and make a few comments, and then we'll move ahead and play another clip. Amir will be followed by a short clip from Michelle Bachmann. Let's just move ahead here and play clip number one. I want to head right into the issue that I teased with opening the program, and that is this coming one world religion. We read about it, Revelation 17:18. The harlot works with the Antichrist, but eventually the false prophet who's going to be heading that one world religion going to be turned on by the Antichrist. The Antichrist is going to bump him off so that he can be the single world ruler. No competition whatsoever. I have in studio with me Eric Barger, and joining me from Israel is Amir Tsarfati. If you want to see a fascinating presentation, folks, look it up either at beholdisrael.org. You can find it on YouTube, his message on the one world religion. Amir, talk to us just a little bit about your inspiration for even doing the one world religion, because I think some people think, well, it's going to be a new age religion, or it's going to be something brand new that's going to come along that we don't even know about yet. Christians are going to be gone. The church will be gone. People will be getting saved during the tribulation. But why did you zero in on the coming one world religion?
First of all, because it is one of several global currents and efforts that are going to characterize and are characterizing the end times. Actually, during the same week I gave that message in the Philippines, I also gave a message about the rise of the one world government, and also, of course, I went back to Genesis 3 and explained everything. And so it is one of those great things. And plus, talking about the one world religion and the false prophet is actually coming from the earth, and it's not coming from the sea
That's right.
as the beast. And so it is something that exists already, and it's something that has the appearance of godliness in the shape of a lamb. To me, it was important to point it out as something that we know that exists, but it is actually changing its shape and form and becoming something completely different without us even noticing, because we're so used to the system, we're so used to the way things are being done, and before we know it, it's completely different. And so I needed to show the process, to show how things are progressing in becoming that new thing.
Let me say this, Amir, because you suggest, and I think it's kind of obvious, at least to the three of us, that the Catholic Church will likely play a prominent role here. And you say the Catholic Church is the only religion that has a strategy for religious domination. And then you go on to explain that in this message that I've seen online. And because I hear from conservative Catholics who are very, very troubled by what's happening to their church as a result of Pope Francis. And they are just very, very troubled by it. Eric, I think you do as well. But you say the Catholic Church is the only religion that has a strategy for religious domination. Why don't you explain what you mean by that?
First of all, we must remember that the word Catholic means universal. It doesn't mean Christian. It doesn't mean followers of Christ. It means universal. It's something that has the aspiration to dominate the entire universe, to begin with. So, I mean, even just to analyze the name itself. I mean, I know a lot of people talking about Islam as the religion that is taking over the world and the Antichrist being a Muslim, all of that. If there is one thing you know about Islam, is that Islam is aiming to take over by the power of the sword. Islam is not tolerating anyone else but Muslims, and even within Islam, Sunni Muslims will slaughter Shiite, Shiite will slaughter Sunni. So Islam is definitely not something that is for expansion and acceptance of others. It's something of either you're Muslim or you're dead. Whereas the concept of a one-world religion is to reach out a specific way to accept and include and becoming inclusive of every other faith, every other thought, every other direction that there is in this world. And that is the key. The Antichrist wants to dominate the world, and he's not going to rise in bad and in violent means. He's going to rise in peaceful means. He's going to offer peace to the world. The fact that halfway through he will break it and then he show his true face, it's a given. But the way for him to be introduced and the way for him to rise into power is actually a very peaceful one, is a very promising one, is a very non-violent one. In fact, if anything, he will oppose violence. He will be the result of a war that there will be a need for peace, and he was the one who will introduce it. So Islam is out of the question, obviously,
yes.
for that. And so I see, and I've noticed that over the past 2-3 years, but I also saw the beginning of it even in 2000 already. And I've seen more and more how the Catholic Church is becoming inclusive to so many streams and thoughts and ideas that would be a great abomination to them up until 10 years or 5 years ago. So that is the only religion that I see that is big enough, strong enough, and is motivated to reach out to every branch and every area of our life and to take domination of it. I've shown 6 different steps.
Yes, you do.
Strategy.
Your 6 points. Just go to youtube.com and go to Amir Tsarfati, and you can find his One World Religion message. I know Eric wants to weigh in here.
Well, just building on that a little, the actual crux of the One World Religion under Antichrist will really be bolstered by the religious leader that we know as the false prophet. But the bottom line of that religion really won't be religion. It's going to be that man is divine, that man is God. And that was the original lie, that you could, circumvent what God had said that was absolutely locked in stone. And here we have man becoming God. And if a trusted and adored religious leader, be he Pope or someone else, I think probably Pope, endorses this idea and builds on it and takes time with it, you can bet the secular world is going to embrace this because they've been embracing this idea for a long time. You're
listening to Understanding the Times Radio. I'm Jan Markell, and I'm playing some clips from popular programming here in 2016. Eric Barger's joining me in studio. The first clip was Amir Tsarfati commenting on the forthcoming One World Religion. Eric, you have a comment or so, and we're going to move ahead.
What I was thinking just now was Gloria Osteen's comment and how the Pope may acquiesce to men and say, how wonderful men are and how we're going to all come together, and thinking of her making the statement that we worship God for ourselves and not for God, and that famous YouTube clip made the rounds. So it's happening all around us.
I'd like to move on. I want to play as many clips as possible. Michelle Bachmann, certainly one of our most popular guests every year. I think we had her 5-6 times in 2016. I'm just going to play a little 4.5-minute soundbite of Michelle commenting on a lot of things, including the global elite. We're going to hear more and more about the Who are they? What do they represent? Michelle, a couple of things, and we were talking a little bit off air, and I was asking you about some of our current leadership, and I asked you a little bit about Paul Ryan, and Speaker of the House, and you just said, frankly, he's part of the globalist elite. Now, that whole title we should even talk about a little bit, because not every listener listener knows what this globalist elite is all about, why don't you take a minute or two and explain that?
Yeah, there's a real dividing line in Washington, D.C. between those who believe in American sovereignty and those who believe in globalism, which is like an entire one world economic system and eventually a one world governance system, because you don't have one ultimately without the other.
But the Bible predicts a coming global system, a one world system under the Antichrist and the false prophet. It's coming. We don't know the timing.
That's right. But I certainly wouldn't want my fingers on helping to create a system of one world government.
And in talking with you off air, you suggest an awful lot in Washington are all in favor of the globalist agenda.
Oh, it's a
huge number.
It's a huge number. The United States Chamber of Commerce is in favor of the globalist agenda because it favors multinational corporations who don't like to bother with individual nation states. That really is the big divide. And that's why you'll see the Chamber of Commerce and you'll see establishment Republicans right now against Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is not a one world government person. He is not in favor of the international elites. When you listen to him talk about these trade deals, remember it was under Bill Clinton that NAFTA passed, and then GATT, and then CAFTA. And what those resolutions did is suck American jobs and American manufacturing out of the United States and send it to Mexico and China and Vietnam and other countries. And we have taken a huge hit on wages, jobs, and benefits in the United States. That's what Trump wants to change.
He does not like these international...
He's not a one-worlder. No.
He's not a one-worlder.
Hillary is a one-worlder. But we've got, on the Republican side, a lot of people who are a part of this global elite. You've got, the George F. Wills, and you've got others in the establishment Republican side, many of whom are the never-Trumpers, who don't have a problem with these international trade deals.
We've got the fundamental transformation of the Middle East. We don't know where Europe is going.
You can't recognize it anymore.
No.
Because Yemen is no more.
Oh,
Iraq is no
absolutely.
more. Syria
Exactly.
is no more.
Exactly.
Lebanon is no
Exactly.
more. Libya is no more.
Yeah.
No more.
Yeah. Now, Europe may be fundamentally transforming. We don't know yet. It's way too early, and we can talk about Brexit if time to do so allows us to. Canada has turned around in the last 6 months.
Yeah, it was
a pro-Israel, conservative,
under Stephen
very
Harper.
stable government under Harper. Now you've got the radical left. You're going to have the fundamental transformation.
They're destroying
of
everything that was
Canada.
built up in Canada.
Yeah.
Exactly. So just think of it. You've got Barack Obama, who for all intents and purposes is an economic Marxist. Now let me say it again, an economic Marxist. That's what he is. And then you've got Justin Trudeau, who also is an economic Marxist. Then you've got Mexico. They've always been economic Marxists. That's North America? Are you kidding me? Remember when we were in elementary school? You would never think of America, much less the whole North America, as economic Marxism. That's what our part of the world is now, economic Marxism. Then you've got Barack Obama and you've got Justin Trudeau, who, the head of Canada, who are extremely pro-Islam. Now, you want to talk about a complete pivot and shift? At one time, we had enough brains and enough sense to realize that to be in bed with the radical Islamic movement is probably not a good day. Today, the Obama administration, as I look at the last 7.5 years, every action they have taken has lifted up and advanced the cause of Islamic Jihad, while at the same time they've cut out the legs under Israel, our best ally. But take a look at Iran. Iran, the number one state sponsor of terror in the world, couldn't have asked for more from the United States than what they've gotten. Barack Obama has advanced Iran's jihadist dreams to annihilate Israel, the United States, and Western Christendom. How about that for fundamental transformation?
Again, Michelle Bachmann, one of our most favorite guests here on radio, and she was with me at Understanding the Times 2015, and will be with me in 2017, and that's October 7th, 2017, along with Amir Tsarfati, Pastor J.D. Farag, and Dr. Mark Hitchcock. And Eric, a lot of interesting things jumped out at me there. Donald Trump is not a globalist, and as you and I said on a recent radio program, the ones most troubled by our 2016 election are the globalists.
And I would think that because he's not a globalist, he's I hate to use the word target, but he is a target, and they're going to try to block him in every way possible, let alone, who knows how many people would just love to see him not be there.